The Peer Networks programme, powered by the New Anglia Growth Hub.
Ashley Riley Communications was first established in 2010 and has since been providing high-class PR and marketing support to clients all over the country. Prior to founding his own company, Ashley worked for London Stansted as Director of Communications, World Vision as Campaigns Manager, and as the Head of Press for Child Poverty Action Group, to name a few. Ashley has since been able to bring his impressive communication skill set to his own company, winning multiple awards including Campaign of the Year from Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. We spoke to Ashley today to gain knowledge on some of the marketing questions and areas members of our Peer Networks programme were struggling with. So, hello Ashley.
Hey, how are you, Sky?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Well, thank you for talking to us today. Would you like to do a little introduction to who you are and your experience with marketing and PR?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, Sky, thanks for having me on, and I hope everybody watching finds it pretty engaging. So I run the very imaginatively named Ashley Riley Communications. So we're a marketing agency. We've been in operation for about the last 10 years or so. Obviously, like most businesses, the last year has been really challenging. So we've got most of our staff on furlough at the moment. My background, just kind of to help people understand a bit where I'm coming from. So before setting up my business, I was the Director of Communications at Stansted Airport at a time when they had 23 million passengers, 10,000 staff. So a little bit different than what airports are going through now. And then just a long history of, I've worked for charities in London. I've been fortunate to work overseas with national government organisations. So I've worked in Africa and the Far East and America. I've worked for children's charities. And before that, I worked for a Member of Parliament. So I was an advisor for 4 years. And a long, long time ago, I was a children's nurse. That's my training. So I worked in the NHS. But I would say, Sky, those things I've always done are about communication. So everything I share is stuff I've learned along the way. And I always say the success my business has had is success that's built on the shoulders of other people, just learning and listening and reflecting. And if I can give some of that back through videos like this, then that's fantastic.
Definitely, yeah, quite the CV.
Yeah. I'm only 21, that's great, isn't it?
So what we have today is we have various questions from the businesses within our peer networks. So I'm just going to tell you some of those and then hear back some of your advice and feedback that you would like to offer to them.
Right.
So the first one is, what would you say is the basic marketing starter pack, if you will, that every business should have regardless of their size? For example, should they have minimum of just a website? Should they have a Facebook page? Should they do mail outs? Things like that.
It's a great question, Sky. And all businesses, big and small, go through that because as soon as we set up, we rightly think around, I need a website, and I need to get my Facebook pages set up, and then I'll start up all the social media platforms. And the answer is all of them. But the answer is none of them. And one thing I'll keep coming back to throughout this interview is the pressure we're all under when we start up to actually do stuff. We feel if we're doing stuff, then it feels like we're being productive. If we're focusing on a website, then it's great. If we're setting up a Facebook page, it's great. And although that's good, what I always encourage firms to do right at the start is before you decide whatever you do, work out who your audience is, work out who your customers are going to be. The posh word in marketing is marketing orientation. And the reason I say that is because you need to find out what platforms your customers are using before you decide to use it. So you'll be amazed, I still meet a number of big businesses who say, Ashley, we definitely want a Twitter page. And you say, great, we can do that with you. Why do you want Twitter? Well, that's where the action's at, isn't it? Well, there's a lot goes on Twitter. Are your customers on there? Don't really know, but we like doing it. And just challenging yourself, quite a harsh message, that it's not about what you want as a business, it's about what your customers want. Yes, a website, but don't spend millions on it. Again, I meet lots of companies that spend ages working on their website. Most people are on Facebook, yes, but just kick off by working out who your audience is going to be and then find out what sort of platforms they use. It puts you in a much more stronger position.
And how would you say that people find out those kind of things? Would you kind of send out internal questions or surveys to the people that they already work with, or?
Yeah, and people often then say, well, where do I start? Because if I don't actually have any customers, how can I even start to talk to them? So you just start to talk to people. You just start to say to people, start off with family and loved ones. They can be kind of give you the harshest and honest views. Speak to friends. I mean, it's quite difficult at the moment, isn't it? You know, it's a 10 networking event. And just start saying to people, I'm thinking of doing this. What's your experience of other companies that do this?
Yeah.
The reality is, I'm trying to think of any business that could have a USP, unique selling point, and the reality is none of them. You can't. There will be somebody else doing what you want to sell or offer. What you can have is something called an ESP, an emotional selling point. So find out what your potential competitors are doing and just learn how they do it. It's not copying, it's not cheating, it's just finding out what others are up to. So when I set up my company, I was really interested to see what other marketing and comms companies were doing. And actually, when I thought, they're lacking there, aren't they? Or I really like what they do there. And you can cherry pick, the bits that work well for other companies. But initially, you just need to start to talk to people and get some feedback about what they think to what you're offering. It's a really good place to start.
So how important is it to increase brand awareness, and in what ways can it show a return on investment?
Yeah, the whole brand thing's great, isn't it? We use it so much, brand, and and I love the definition from Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon. His definition of brand is what somebody says about you when you're out of the room. And I think that's great, because when it comes to your brand, it's not about the colour on your logo. It's not about what your website looks like. It's that stuff that you emotionally bring to the game. And so the initial place to start is just make sure you're doing something you enjoy and you've got a bit of a passion about. And, most people I know who run their own businesses don't do it just to make a fortune. If you want to make a fortune, go and work in the city or play the lottery every single week. You set up a business because it's something you care about. So spend a bit of time thinking about why you care about your business and what you bring to the game. We established quite early on that what we wanted to stand for were three things. That's consistency, engagement, and trust. And that's been a journey for us, because we don't always manage that, because sometimes you just have to get on and do the day job. But establish what your brand is, that stuff you stand for. There's a guy called Jeff Bezos who worked for President Obama, and he asked, what's your North Star? And your North Star is the thing that separates you from other people. Identify what that is, and then just start communicating that's where the brand, and that's when you'll start to see that return on investment coming in, because you'll see that you're different than everybody else. But my main message there when it comes to brand is definitely don't do something that you're not passionate about, because you'll get bored and you'll get frustrated really, really quickly.
And for those that are perhaps struggling to find their why, and maybe have their kind of what and their how really figured out, but are just kind of struggling with what it is that is the reason that they do what they do you have any kind of tips and advice on how to kind of drill into that?
I do, and some of this can sound a bit naff sometimes. So, but I think on a basic level, we're human beings, aren't we? And we're all it's okay not to be okay at the moment. We're all challenged, but sometimes it can be a good time just to reflect on what brought us into this world, and in terms of this business world. And I have a number of different passions. So I love communications. I love learning. This stuff about being able to communicate and market messages to people and see it making a difference is the stuff that really passes me. I'll be honest, if I get a bit low and frustrated, I draw on some really old resources. So you probably see behind me, I've got the Obama book, his latest, his autobiography. I find reading people that inspire me or watching videos a really good way of reminding me. Now, clearly, I'm not and won't become President Obama, but I find his words and his videos inspiring. Find stuff that inspires you guys. Find stuff that makes you sit up and go, that really does it for me. That's the stuff that's going to just get me thinking clear again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't underestimate that running your own business, running your own marketing company, or trying to market your company, it can sometimes be a real slog. I remember when I set up my business, and about a year in, I was chatting to a guy at a network event, and I said to him, "Hope you don't mind me asking, getting a lot of sleepless nights at the minute about the business, about will it work?" And I said, "What's the answer?" And he always said, the answer, Ashley, is just accept that's what running your business is all about. The sleepless nights never go. It's just knowing that that's the stuff that drives you to be more successful. And so that whole sense, and I think we're all going through this at the moment, aren't we, Scott? It's about being real about where we are in the world, and real about what we're going through at the moment. Being real about your business and real about marketing is realising you will go through times when you're not that stirred by what you do, but it's knowing what to draw on to kind of get going, yeah, that's the reason why I'm doing it.
Definitely. Many of the SMEs in our program have found that advertising in relevant magazines or creating content for social media has actually not resulted in clients, and rather word of mouth or website traffic has proven the best way to generate sales. Why would you say that this is? And is there a way that businesses could be tailoring their strategies to reflect this?
Yeah, really. Again, thank you. Really good question. What it's about is it's a lack of targeting. It's that we're all tempted to throw enough mud and hope that it sticks when it comes to our business. We think if we post enough on LinkedIn, if we put an advert in the local parish newsletter enough times, then eventually someone will either take pity on us or someone will say, yes, that's the service that I want. So it goes back to that original point about you must target your customers, because once you know who those customers are, you can start to communicate with them, and then you can start to measure what works. So to give a really broad brush example, if you find out you're providing a service that appeals very much to women over 45, just a quick Google search will show you that Facebook's the place to be, because women over 45 is the biggest growing demographic to use Facebook. So you don't need to touch Instagram. I love Instagram. I use it socially. I just love to see what everyone's up to. But again, that's mainly young people under 23 who are using it. So, once you know that, you can start posting on there. Once you know that, when we get back to networking, they're the people to approach. And again, somebody taught me a lovely example of networking when I first started. They said, however big a room of networking is, whether it's 10 people or 30 or 100, you can always divide a room into three. A third of the room, you just don't like them and they don't like you, so forget about them. A third of the room will never do business with you, so don't waste your time. Then there's a third of the room that are your people, and they're the ones to get to know, and they're the ones that will buy your products. But you only get to know that third if you do your targeting, if you know your sort of people. And it's exactly the same whether you're doing social media or advertising. Again, we do some work over here for a company whose target is young mums. And they talked about, we're going to set up a Facebook group, and yes to all of that. But where are most young mums at the moment online? Well, they're on something called Mumsnet. So we said to that business, you're best investing any money you've got advertising on Mumsnet, because that's where your key audience is. So it's that ability to identify who your audience is, and then start communicating to them, and then you can start to measure whether that's the right thing to do. But the balance is, and I still do this now, so much of our marketing is ego driven. If we're sitting quiet and we've not got enough work on, we think if we spend an hour on social media just posting, it will make a difference. It doesn't. Understandably, it makes us feel like we're doing something, but it's not successful in the long term.
So if a company was to put out a promotional video, and it was to do really well and get, thousands of views, but that was to not actually end up being any clients or sales for them, would that just be a case of they targeted that video to the wrong clientele? Or
yeah, it would, and I don't want to be too harsh, because if you get a video out there and you get lots of interest, that's great. I'm not trying to say don't do that, because your people will find out about it. But again, we're quite an established business now. We've won national awards, and people still say to us, well, how come your Facebook page, Ashley, your business page, has only got 300 members? Sure, you have like 10,000. And it's like, no, they're 300 current and former clients, because we know from our work that most of our new work comes from existing clients who recommend us on. So we focus totally on that 300. If you're watching this and you're a newish business and you're thinking about marketing, if all you've had in the past is, say, 5 customers, that's all you've had. That's not a problem. You just need to make sure those 5 people follow you on your social media platforms. And you need to ask those 5 people, what social media platforms do they prefer? And then just target everything at those 5 people. Because if you've done a good job for them, they'll be the ones that recommend you on. So I'm a big fan of video, and I'm sure we'll come on to talking about the importance of video. But again, please don't be taken in by the Pied Piper of video. You know, that if I've got 20,000 people watching my video, it must mean I'm going to get good custom. It doesn't work like that.
So I suppose it's even if your business is focused primarily on word of mouth, you still need to make sure that you're actively putting your business out there, just to remind even those people that worked with you before that you're there, so that you're in their memory to then recommend you.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for making sure that you are visible this time. So what happens is we're in the middle of a recession, and then it's going to go on for some time. And actually, it's all about this thing called SOV, share of voice, and how you make sure that your business has a share of voice within the world. And that means online, and that means in magazines or whatever. A lot of your competitors will have stopped trading, and that's really sad. A lot of them have gone bust. If you're still going at the moment, or you've said that's brilliant, but you need to increase your share of voice. And that doesn't have to mean more money. It does mean more effort. It does mean more work on marketing, but it means making sure that amongst your audience, they hear from you more than ever. So again, identify your audience, make sure they hear from you much more than they used to.
How would you say is the best way for businesses to come up with a clear and precise target market or ideal customer?
Yeah. It's a little bit what we've covered before, and I always kind of apologise when I do these interviews, Sky, because I can come across a bit repetitive. But I love that. I love that psychology stat that people need to hear something between 3 and 7 times before they remember it. And so if I've said something 4 times, it's like you're never going to forget it, everyone. It's really important. It's about talking to people. It's about, I've written it down, it's about challenging yourself. It's about looking at competitors. So it's about, I'm going to sell X. What do people think about it? Let me talk to people. Let me see. Let me try stuff out. And also realizing in the marketing game, there's a lot of evidence out there that can tell you. You just Google it. Just Google stuff. Everything I share in my business, and I do a lot of webinars and teaching, is not undiscovered marketing at the end of a rainbow, this pot of gold of marketing. It's stuff that's already out there. So there's, as businesses, when we all set up, small or large, we find it really hard to talk to people. So if you go to, again, when we do networking events, or if you go on LinkedIn, hardly anybody says, yeah, it's really hard work at the minute, isn't it? It's really crap. People, oh yeah, I'm really busy. Yeah, there's loads going on. Yeah, it's really great. Hey, and if it is, good luck to you. But the reality is, most people are finding it quite tough at the moment. And the reality is, when we can start networking again, or when you can start talking to your contacts again, ask them, what can we do better? What can we do different? What do you think to what we're offering? So, we deliver free webinars. We deliver a lot of teaching. I'm always seeking feedback, and I'm really open, because yes, it's lovely when people email us back and go, oh, Ashley, you were great. You were really inspiring. And for 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, great, aren't I? Isn't that? But actually what I really want to hear is, but that bit of content didn't work, or we'd like to hear a bit more about this. And so again, it is just speaking to people and asking for their feedback on what they think. There's a lot of competitors. Find out what you can bring to the game and ask people what they think to that.
And do you think that perhaps if there's businesses out there that are really struggling with this aspect, perhaps just sort of the getting started with their target market or their marketing plan, it's worth outsourcing to a professional or a company, even just for kind of one hour of consultancy to kind of figure that out for them?
Yeah, I'm so biased on that question, because that's what we do for companies.
Yeah.
So great ideas, Sky, absolutely. We think it's the best thing. Again, being really, as a business, we will happily deliver social media for clients, and we do that a lot. We can deliver whatever service you want, but actually our focus on what separates us is that a lot of smaller companies will bring us in for an hour or two to do that bit of market orientation for them. Why it's worth the investment is that we're experts, we know what we're on about, but get a company to do that for you. The rest of it, you can do yourself. So actually, again, I would say this, it's an investment, because what we find is a lot of smaller companies will come to us and say, actually, can you deliver social medias for us every month for a year? Of course, we'll do that. That's quite a cost for them when they don't know who their target audience is. So get an expert or learn from an expert to get that marketing strategy together. What do we mean by strategy? It's the whole aim, objective, audience, tools, how you measure it. We have a lot of companies that use us once a year for half a day. We run workshops where we put together the strategy for them. They then run with it and they come back a year later. It's not overly expensive, but it's a really powerful and effective way of saving money in the long run, because just don't keep throwing money on companies to do stuff for you if you can't measure the success. That's what I just bang on about all the time. If you can measure something, you can improve it. If you can't measure it, what's the point of doing it?
Yeah. And following on a little bit from that in regards of cost, in your opinion, what would be the best advice for a company that needs to lower their cost per action?
It's lowering costs is really difficult, because again, we're all cutting back, aren't we? We're looking at ways of we're looking at ways of saving money. And I think if you can, in the first place, again, do that target marketing, and then you're not wasting money. But if you want to save money, and we've all done this as companies at the moment, is look at everything you currently do from a marketing point of view, and what brings you the most results, what brings you the most data, what brings you the most analysis. So most new businesses will have a website. What is that telling you? Are you not spending enough time on the analytics? Because you can delve in and just see. So if you're going to save money, stop doing the stuff that you can't measure. And that actually isn't just in terms of finance, it's in terms of your time as well. Don't waste your time doing stuff on Twitter if it's not bringing you in any business. If you do it because it just, passes a bit of time and you enjoy doing it, that's fine. We all have a little play on social media. But if it's about your business, don't start doing things that you can't measure. And they're the things you need to stop.
What marketing tools and campaigns have you personally seen recently from clients or otherwise that you think have been successful, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, a couple of good examples for people. I'm always quite interested to share examples that are affordable, because we can always say, did you see the latest Coca-Cola advert? Wasn't it fabulous? Yeah, they only spent 23 million on it, or the John Lewis Christmas advert. But there's two. So there's a video company that I do some work with. And again, it depends on when people are watching this, but you may have seen in the past few weeks, there was a famous parish council meeting where it kicked off, and there's a woman on there who's gone.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah,
everyone was moaning on there, and she became, was it Jackie something? She became quite famous. And so we've got a company that's done a very short 30-second video on saying how they can help councils produce better videos than Zoom. Now, okay, if we're not in that world, it's not that sexy, but it's an issue of its time. So again, I always say to people who are thinking about their marketing, what are people waking up and thinking about? They're not waking up and thinking about your business. I wish they were. What are we seeing on the news? I get a lot of it's COVID. I get a lot of it's kind of quite depressing. But what news items are going on that you can tune into that will help you promote your business? So that video company is one. Another great one that I always share, and it's really simple. It's a company called Stanair, and they sell industrial doors. So again, it's not the sexiest bit of work, but any business can do this. They work with me and they use MailChimp. E-newsletter, so it's free to use MailChimp. They pay for that service because they have about 8,000 customers on that, but you can have 8, and it doesn't. I think you can get up to 200 or 1,000 names in it, and it's free. They have an e-newsletter that goes out religiously every month on the middle of the month, and they look at who's opening it, and they have someone that spends half a day a week telephoning the people that open it regularly and say to them, hi, I've seen you've opened the newsletter. Thanks very much. Was there anything of interest in there? That's bringing in money. Obviously I can't, break confidentiality about how much, but that's more than paying for their marketing budget. And it is that simple. They know who their audience is. They message them regularly. They look who's owning it. They're measuring it. They follow it with a phone call. And it's so simple, but interestingly, the bit where most businesses fall down, human nature again, is the last bit. We can send stuff out. We can measure it. We can see who's owning it. I just haven't got time to call people. I just haven't. And sometimes that's a human net. We don't want to bother people. But it's a bit like opening a lovely shop and refusing to serve customers when they come in. So it's a really good example of this marketing stuff doesn't have to be difficult, but you have to lay the ground. You don't phone people who are not interested in your business. Of course you don't. But if someone is regularly opening your newsletter and engaging with you, pick up the phone to them and you'll be amazed at the results. It works every time. So hopefully that's a really good example.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes the focus on marketing can often be about new clients and getting in new people through the door, but actually it's probably more cost effective and time effective half the time to focus on the ones that are already paying attention to what you're doing.
Oh gosh, absolutely. And this Stan Air example, again, this industrial door company, they've got a number of different lists, and they divide it between traffic lights. So whoever's opening their newsletter, you're a red traffic light if you've never used the business before. You're an amber if you've used the business, a customer, but not in the last 2 years. If someone's a regular customer, they're green. In an ideal world, Stan Air would have a marketing team of about 300 and you'd telephone everyone. There's one guy. So all he focuses on is the ambers, the people that have used the business, but not for the last 2 or 3 years. And they're often the ones that go, oh, it's great to hear from you. Yeah, we were thinking about a quote for a new door, actually. And, it might sound like, is that as simple as that? It really, really is. Absolutely it is. But know your audience and you phone the right people. And you're right. So often we get business from existing customers.
Yeah, that seems like the type of thing that a lot of people could implement if they just set aside a certain amount of time a week to focus on.
Yeah, and what it covers again, and I missed it earlier on, Sky, was that if people want to invest a small amount of money, you can still buy email addresses. And I know that's been a little bit of GDPR or perhaps we shouldn't do that. But again, if you're targeted, so we use a company and I think it's a small amount of money for each email address. But if you go to them and say, I'd like 1 million email addresses, of course they'll sell you them. But if you go to these companies and say, my target market is HR directors, for example, human resource directors, and I'd like a list of all HR email directors in Suffolk and Norfolk, please. They can provide you with that, and that's quite a smaller, and you can then target those people. So those, and that's not that expensive either. Those emails can cost something between 80 pence to £1 each. So it's not massive. They're really good and useful things to use, but only if you use them. Use them, email them, look at the owners, telephone them, find out the information, and again, it flows through quite well.
What factors would make you distinguish whether a company should focus on their marketing more or PR, and how can they make it cost effective?
Yeah, I had a client say this to me the other day. He said, actually, we've been working with you for some time. You seem more PR than marketing. And it's gone, oh my gosh, I've got it wrong. But thinking it through, and this is the way I explained to him. So both marketing and PR are not sales. They're not sales facilities. That's a direct relationship. Marketing for me creates the leads. So my job often, and if you're marketing your business, is to create leads. Whether people buy from you as a business, that's about what you provide. So I often say jokingly to clients, we can make people come through your shop door. That's our job. But if what you're selling at the counter is not very good, that's not about us. So marketing is about identifying who your audience is. PR is then about how you make sure that message gets to those people, if that makes sense. So get a lot of questions about, is it outdated now to advertise in magazines, or should we be doing that sort of thing? Marketing is about finding out who your customers are, and part of that work is finding out what are they reading, and what online or hard copy newspapers and magazines are they reading. PR means how you get in those magazines or online articles, but only once you know what your customers are reading. Again, if that makes sense. So we've got a company on our books at the moment that target market is parish councils. So it took a while for us to establish that with them. But actually, we now know that parish councils and parish councillors often read, surprise, surprise, parish council magazines. So, you don't have to spend £700 a time advertising in The Guardian. You can spend 15 quid on a small advert in the bottom of a magazine for a parish council. And it means it's getting to your audience. So establish the two. If you know who your audience is, you can bring in a PR company. If you don't know who your audience is, that's when you would use a marketing company. And so the two are quite separate.
Okay, cool. So is it still worthwhile to use physical marketing techniques such as leaflets, etc., or is everything just online?
I'd never say like advertising on bus stops or leaflets doesn't work. One, because if I did every single company that prints stuff would have a real big issue with me on that. Scott, it comes back to the targeting again. So if you're just leafleting a local community, it's pretty much a waste of money because you're up against all the pizza delivery leaflets and all the other snail mail and all the other flyers and stuff. That often works for big companies. And what I'd say on that is, if your business is offering something that is an impulse buy, so a curry, if you're in the food industry and it's something people don't think about buying, they just get a leaflet and go, yeah, I fancy a curry tonight. Yeah, that's when stuff like leafleting works, if it's an impulse buy. If it's a business that people have to think about, and should I have that? Then leafleting and sort of traditional advertising is quite tough. Because like most of us, I'll have a look at it for 3 seconds and put it in the bin. Again, it comes back to targeting. So if you know who your audience is, and are they the sort of people that will read leaflets, then go for it. And it's the same with advertising in magazines. The problem I personally have with all of it, because I think its days are numbered, to be honest, is how do you measure that? How do you measure that you putting a leaflet through someone's door and them looking at it and deciding to use your service means that it works? And so again, I'm saying it because we had a curry at the weekend. That made us go to the local curry house here, but they can't measure that unless they say, oh, thank you for coming in. Did you come because of our leaflet? They're not going to say that, are they? And there's lots of other stuff. So, but again, it's where that sort of stuff is quite dated and you can throw a lot of money at it. But I totally understand that we feel better when we see our own advert. And I did that at the start. So I think I paid 300 quid for a full-page advert in a magazine. And I absolutely loved it. Oh, it was me. It was a picture of my business. And I felt great about it. But nobody was looking at it. And more importantly, I couldn't measure it. I just simply couldn't measure it. What I ended up doing, and again, it's a quick bit of advice, is I photocopied that article about 500 times and just gave it out to people when I did networking. So at least I felt like I was getting something from it.
Yeah. So
traditional does work and it can work, but again, it all goes back to who's your audience and are they likely to use it or read it.
Yeah. So perhaps those kind of old school ways work better for the kind of hospitality industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm trying to think of the recent leaflets we've had through the door. Again, we had a guy offering to put a garden shed up for us, and we've got sheds in the garden. And so again, it's just that, it's a lot of money and a lot of effort to do your leaflets.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Make sure you're spot on. Make sure it's something that people make an impulse decision on.
How can smaller businesses that market themselves primarily on social media platforms such as Instagram utilize the software to its full potential?
What this is about for me, Sky, is again, surprise, surprise, identifying who your audience is. And a quick Google search will tell you who is using which platform, So again, 25 and under is your Instagrammers, just generalizations. Facebook tends to be slightly older population. LinkedIn, the whole world's on there at the moment. We were talking about that earlier. It's about what platform your customers are using. But even if you don't do that, even if you think, well, I don't want to do that, actually, I just want to get out there. There's so much content at the moment online that what I call vanilla. It's just really boring and predictable. We're all on there. There's so much white noise. I always talk about white noise. Everyone's on there wanting to sell something and showcase themselves. Mm-hmm. I get that. But how are you going to be seen above all of that noise? Excuse me. So the thing that lots of people are doing at the moment, I understand why, is they'll go on LinkedIn and they'll share a picture of them on a Zoom call with lots of other people. Great. You can use Zoom. I get that. You know, we've all pretty much mastered it. How are you going to stand out from everybody else? And if you're thinking, well, that's why I'm not a marketer, look at what other people do. What other stuff kind of gets other people noticed? You know, some of it is basic human connections. If you can make people smile, if you can make people laugh, if you can make people interested, then you're kind of halfway there. You know, look at posts that you see as a business that you like and think, okay, how can I recreate that? And that doesn't have to mean money, and it doesn't mean big investment. But it's, you know, it's about, as I said earlier on, about being engaging, and then it's about being consistent. So we do a video every single week called The Life of Riley, and I'm in a fortunate position where I can pay to have that done now. But initially, we did them on my iPhone. And the reason why they were successful is I did it every single week without fail, even when I didn't feel like it. And so we did it every single week, and it was engaging. There was never a sell in it. It's always about stuff that could help people, a bit like this video. Mm-hmm. And so whatever platform you're using, you know, don't be a passenger, but be a mood creator and take a little bit of a risk. Clearly, stay away from politics, stay away from religion, and stay away from sex, because those three things will get you in trouble at somewhere along the line. But just have engaging stuff that makes you a bit of a mood creator, and show what you do. I think there's still a lot to be said for show people what you do. And we were talking earlier before we came on the call about there's a lot of people where I live that are on LinkedIn, and good luck to them, but they're sharing that there's a guy who sings and he's a solicitor, and okay, it's nice to look at, but I'm not interested in you singing, mate. I want to know if you can represent me if I need legal stuff. And so it's just about how do you cut through that? Show people what you do, show them you're good at it, do it in an engaging and consistent way, and people will start to notice.
Mm-hmm. So make sure that you're balancing your content with things that are about your business and what your business can do, but also just general kind of content that helps others and is about them. And that will kind of get them through your social media door, for lack of a better term.
No, it's brilliant. You said it much more succinctly than I can, because what we do is we live in an expert culture. Mm-hmm. And actually people want to hear from experts. And there used to be a fear that, well, if I share too much information, it means I'm giving it away free. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? We live in the age of YouTube. People can find it. And I think, is it 70% of internet traffic on YouTube is people searching how-to videos? Mm-hmm. So share with people your expertise. People want to employ experts. You know, share with people what you know and what you can teach them. So, you know, again, we did some work some time ago now with was it an electrician or it was a plumber. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we said, well, one of the best things you can do is a video for YouTube showing people how to maintain their boiler. And he said, yeah, but I don't want to give that away for free. The reality is people watch the video because they love it. About a minute in, they go, well, I can't do this. I need to call a plumber. And guess what they call? They call the guy doing the video. So, you know, whether your job is making great cakes, whether you are a glass blower, or whether you are an expert marketeer, share some of those, why you know that stuff, and people will notice it. It's refreshing. People want it.
Mm. And then it adds a bit of kind of trustworthiness to you as well, because you're showing what you're doing. You're not trying to hide how easy or not easy it is.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
People know that they want to go to you then too.
It gives that credibility, doesn't it? You know, we want to go to people that know what they're on about. In the marketing world, it's amazing. Most businesses that come to us will say, we've used marketing companies before and they've really let us down because they've promised the earth and then they've not really delivered. Mm-hmm. And so that, let people know your stuff, show people your stuff. And a lot of my work on my videos, hashtag Life of Riley online, if anybody wants to have a look for them, is just sharing the latest research and data. It's not our data, it's not our research. We keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world of marketing and what research is telling us. That puts us above our competitors, not because we're any better than they are, but because we think this stuff through and we use it. And that's what brings people into our business.
Our last question is, how would you tackle the construction of a marketing plan for some of the more niche businesses? Is it necessary? And if so, is it better to outsource?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Always have a plan. Always have a plan. There's a lovely old saying, you never go into the woods without a map. So don't go into the world of business without some sort of plan. And it doesn't have to be this massive strategy that sits on the shelf and you never use it again. I've written it down here. You need something that you can deliver. You need something that you can achieve, and it needs to be measurable. So when we do plans for people, we look at the aim and the objective. What is the aim? And what I mean by that is, as a business, how many things do you want to sell at what price in what time? You have to be that specific. Yes, you won't always achieve it, but if you sell something for £100, you need to sell 100 of those every month to make a living. That gives you something to work towards. And then you look at, what tools are you going to use? So websites, social media marketing tools are you going to use. How are you going to measure that? What's your key messages? So again, what's your brand? You get a whole plan in place. And again, I'm biased, aren't I? But that's where I'd be encouraging people to bring someone in to help you do it. So yes, you could, for instance, pay me to come and do it for you, or the businesses that work the best are the people that pay us to come in and run a half-day session for them, where we teach them to do it themselves. So they're always reflecting on it. But if you get a plan that you've got to make sure you can deliver it, because you can set yourself up all these tasks to do, but you're busy trying to run the business. So you need marketing that you can do. You've got to be able to achieve it. You've got to be able to measure it. That gives you a plan to absolutely move forward. That's what the big successful companies do. Again, whether we're talking about an Amazon or a Google or a Nike, the process is exactly the same. Yes, they've got billions of pounds that they put into it, but they measure everything they do. They set out where they want to go. Probably sometimes they fail, but at least they've got that sense of direction. So definitely have a plan. I didn't have them for the first 4 years of my business, and just found that the whole day always went like that because you didn't know what direction you were going in. It's tough. It's hard. It's hard to have that discipline, but would really encourage people to do that.
Yeah. And if people are looking to outsource, it probably would be more kind of value for money if they take advantage of the free information that is online and go to that meeting with that consultant ready with all the information they actually can get online already, so that they can have a good conversation about what they want. Because perhaps sometimes when they are disappointed with a marketing company, it might be because they've come with no ideas themselves of what they want their company to look like, and then left it all up to the marketeer who is perhaps on a different wavelength altogether.
Absolutely, yeah. You're right. And again, yes, if you can do if you've got budget to use on external companies, use it. But also, there's a lot of help out there, especially at the moment. So you guys at the Growth Hub, wherever you're based in the country, there's a lot of free to use services where you've got expert business advisors. So we're quite established, and we've done work with you guys at the Growth Hub. We've also used you for business advice, and we've also, because there's a lot of stuff in there, and you can only learn from that. Some of it not been so useful, some of it really has. But seek out that advice and support, and then start to formulate your ideas. And if you do bring an external company in, they can really help you to start to crystallise that. Because the point that I think surprises most businesses when they meet me is to say, Ashley, we want to sell to this product to these people. How do we do it? I always say the first thing, I don't know. And they're like, surely you should know everything. I'm like, no, I don't. Until we do further work together, I don't know. I don't know who your audience is or what they want or what they're thinking. I'll work with you to help you achieve that. But if any business goes to any marketing company and before anything else, they say, yeah, we can do that. We'll have it sorted. Yeah, we know all those people. That's when the alarm bell should ring. because they don't know anything about your audience until you tell them. So yes, bring that information together, but also use the Growth Hub, use the resources that are out there, because some of them are really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like I've learned a lot today, Ashley.
Oh, really pleased. That's really great. And generally, I suppose what we're doing here, Sky, is what we're encouraging other people to do.
Yeah.
Is to watch stuff like this, is to ask lots of questions. And people might watch this and not agree with all of it, but that's part of being successful in business, really challenge stuff and just learn from lots of other people.
Yeah, to just get yourself thinking about your business and where you want to move forward with it. I think the key takeaway today has been targeting. Target.
Absolutely. It is about target. And it's a lovely place to be when you get that right as well. And again, I say this to businesses a great deal, because once you've targeted who your customers are, you're in that magic world of knowing who your customers aren't. And that's great, because who wants to waste their time, money and effort marketing to people who are never going to use your services? That's great. You can afford to ignore people at networking events, because then they're not going to be your people. And if we've got time, Sky, there's a great story, Abercrombie and Fitch, which is a high street fashion store that lots of people know. Brilliant true story. Was Abercrombie and Fitch, the CEO was accused of being too selective about who he has in his stores. And again, I'll let you into a secret. I am 49, so I'm not a target market for Abercrombie and Fitch. So even their extra large wouldn't fit me anymore. Their clothes are very small. And again, if you go to an Abercrombie and Fitch store, it's very dark. Lots of nightclub music on, and it smells of kind of cheap blokes aftershave. They've got a very target audience, and they said, someone questioned their CEO and said, aren't you just stopping lots of other people coming in the store? He said, definitely we are. Our shoppers are the cool kids who are 24 and under and who look great, and they're the ones we want. If you're not a cool kid, then we're not interested in you. I'm really sorry. And they share the story that in America a few years ago, there was a reality show called Jersey Shore, and there was a guy called Mike the Situation Sorrentino, and he used to walk around without his shirt on. He used to be smoking, and he used to be in his early 30s, washboard stomach. And in all of Jersey Shore, he kept wearing Abercrombie and Fitch underpants. You could see the line at the top. Abercrombie and Fitch paid him $600,000 to stop wearing their clothes.
Wow.
Because he wasn't their key audience, and it was a big news in America at the time. But I'm not suggesting one minute you
Which
start
is PR in itself.
It's PR in itself, absolutely. But it's a company that is so confident of knowing who its customers are, it can afford to irritate people that don't wear them. You're right, great PR in itself, but what a great place to be, to actually know who your customers are, so you can say to the ones, you're not our sort of person. It's a true story, but it's a great example of how the theory can work really well. Yeah.
No, that's super interesting. Wow. Lots of food for thought. Thank you very much for talking to, I say me, but really us.
Brilliant.
Today.
I've loved it. Let's do it again. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll leave all your links and information and everything for people who do want to reach out to you.
Thank you.
But otherwise, yeah, that's all from me today. So thank you very much.
Great job, Sky. Good to speak to you, and good luck to everyone.
To find out more about the Peer Networks programme, please visit www.newangliagrowthhub.co.uk. Alternatively, you can contact one of our Peer Networks coordinators at peer-to-peer@newangliagrowthhub.co.uk.